I was hiking on the trail and it's unmaintained. So I'm having to like push through thorns, go over under fallen trees the entire way. Again, no big deal, but I'm on the trail and then I hear a rustling in the woods behind me. And this black bear comes up behind me on the trail. And me not being fearful, oh my gosh.
Hey everybody, this is Jeremy from Price Points, and welcome to the podcast. Here at Price Points, we believe in finding fun ways and staying active. In this week's episode, we're talking to Megan with Smoky Mountain Soul Adventures. Megan leads guided tours out in West North Carolina, I think really around the Asheville area. Was able to sit down, talk to her, kind of figure out exactly how she got started, what she loves doing, and got into a little bit of the weeds about a black bear that she recently encountered. So stay tuned. We're really going to dig this episode, Megan, Smoky Mountain Soul Adventures. I want to thank Megan for jumping on. And Megan, just tell us a little bit about yourself here.
All right. Hey, I am Megan, and I started a guided hiking company this year called Smoky Mountain Soul Adventures. So that's been fun kicking it off this fall season. And when I am not doing that, I actually really enjoy solo hiking. Other than those two things, I am a solo parent to two children, younger children in elementary school. And so that pretty much keeps me busy. That's a full plate for me every single day.
No, I can imagine. Being a single parent myself, with one son, that within itself is time consuming. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
what led you to start this journey of creating, Smoky Mountain Soul Adventures?
That is a great question. And it wasn't something that happened overnight. I kind of led the traditional go to college, get a degree, get a corporate job. I was a real estate agent for most of my career, either that or consumer goods sales. And kind of my life got turned upside down in 2019. My husband was diagnosed with cancer, and we were living in Wilmington, North Carolina. And um, because of that, I was no longer able to sell real estate on the weekends. I had to, be there for the kids and my husband. And so I found a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 job, but it was in Asheville, North Carolina. So we moved our entire life to Asheville in 2019. And I started hiking. I mean, I've always loved nature and being outside, but just it was such a drastic change of scenery and much needed. And so, just basically due to the stress of everything in everyday life and having two really young children, my kind of relief was going out and hiking and being around nature and water and all of the nature things. So that kind of was my passion. And unfortunately, my husband did not make it. So, out of that, I guess it led me, obviously, your time here is finite, but that was a really big wake up call to take my passion and turn it into a business, into a profitable business, I guess. And so I just started hiking a lot living here, and I would bring my kids on the weekends. And then I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. And so that's what led me to start my own guided hiking company. So I can get out there and do what I love and show other people my passion. And I think that comes across just showing people how much I love being out here and what fun it is, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so loss of your husband.
Thank you.
That's really
It was life-changing for sure.
no, I imagine it. Yeah, I completely imagine that it was, and you've been able to kind of take that and to turn it into something,
Yeah.
and so that's there's something there. So talking about the hiking tours, kind of because I've seen you post stuff on Instagram, and that's how we got connected.
Yeah.
And I knew that you had, I believe, a son, and this may be like one of the first times, if the first time I kind of reached out because he had broken a bone. Am I remembering that correctly? And
Yes.
oh goodness gracious.
He's a young boy and he's very active. But in this particular situation, we weren't even hiking. He was just going up our hardwood stairs in the house and fell.
It's always something like that causes,
Yeah.
a major injury. I tore my ACL a few years ago and it was at a dodgeball fundraiser for the
Oh
United
yeah.
Way. Yeah. So I mean that's
Not
and
running then.
it was on my son's birthday. It was his actual
Oh
birthday.
no.
So I got to yeah. So he was there when it happened along with my father who came in from out of town. So yeah, good times.
I know.
But I so yeah, but about the hiking tour. So what kind of options, like what exactly, if I was looking to do a tour, and to do that, like what do you have available?
Yeah, so I will say there is really strong competition in this area, and I wouldn't even call it competition, but just other more established companies here. So I wanted to really choose some of my favorite places in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina and show them to people who are coming from out of town or maybe just moved here and not comfortable solo hiking. And so, my two favorites and the two that really seem to be resonating with people are one, I have a child focused tour, and it's basically for those parents who I mean, just from personal experience, I know hiking with young children can be taxing and they're whining and they're tired and they just want snacks all the time. And so I created a tour where it's actually just really focused on the child, and we do a scavenger hunt and kind of adventurous games and prizes during it. And so it really keeps the children engaged while the parents are able to take in this amazing scenery that we have here. I'm entertaining the children, so it's a good time for everybody. And then, of course, the children get a little camping themed bagged prize at the end, which is always fun and a motivator for them to keep going. So that's been popular, and it's one of my more fun ones. And then the second one is kind of like a hidden gems tour of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Because obviously I'm out there all the time doing all the trails I can find, finding all the waterfalls. And I have noticed that there are just major hikes that it seems that all the tourists know about. And so it can get quite crowded, hard to find parking. Not exactly like serene, with so many people out there. So I have found a hike and some waterfalls that not all the tourists know about yet. And they're my personal favorite places to go too, just to kind of be in nature, be surrounded by the beauty of this area without dealing with, people's music or loud conversations. We have a lot of bachelorette parties in Asheville. So
Oh yeah.
just trying to get away from all that and really soaking up the beauty and the surroundings without the crowd. So that's been a popular one as well, kind of the hidden gems tour. And then my others are just kind of favorite places that I
Yeah.
enjoy. Um, and then I do custom tours as well if I have a group that is maybe more advanced, but they don't know exactly where to go. I'll take them on a longer tour or a more difficult one than my pre-planned ones. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to set myself apart from the other companies, and just kind of do the children focused one and the hidden gems one, really stand out from the rest.
Well, and I could see why. My son Max, he's 11, just turned 11 a few months ago, and to help him with soccer, he goes on runs with me. But
Oh, nice.
the very first time we ran in the neighborhood, he was, ready to kill me before we
Yeah.
finished our first mile. And so, fortunately, we were able to find a group here, where I live in Knoxville, that they do, a race series, and it's like a scavenger hunt, and it's a
Oh,
different
cool.
map, a different time limit each week, and you have to run somewhere. You get to decide on where you go and take a selfie to prove that you went there and got
Oh,
back in
cool.
time. And depending on where you go, it's different points. And so I think that's awesome that you're able to kind of add that, level of gaming if you will,
So, yeah.
to hiking. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
think hidden gems, that's a cool one too. That's um, I've got some friends and I've started a series like goofballs and waterfalls, like places where you can take your kids to hike. But the drawback with that is, because these are shorter hikes, these are easier hikes, kind of falls under that category that you're saying. You're probably going to be hearing somebody's music. And so or there's going to be large crowds. So I love the fact that you've got this hidden gem. I think another thing that kind of lends itself to is you're not necessarily a gatekeeper either. You've got these great spots that you want to share.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I got a little flack a few months ago because I shared a spot and it's not public. It's first off, it's private property.
Mhm.
The owners allow people on there as long as leave no trace. They're
Sure.
big believers in that and being very careful because it is some dangerous terrain.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it and someone's like, "Oh, I thought we were not supposed to talk about that." It's like it's not Fight Club. It's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I mean, like it's a beautiful
Yeah.
place, and as long as people are going to take care of it, why hold that to yourself? So I love those two. I love those two options that you've got out there. That's
Yeah,
great.
I have found doing Instagram, which was not, I think it was quite eye-opening because I started my Instagram account just because I love this area so much and I'm so passionate about it. And I know when I travel, I'd like to know about the spots, that aren't already overloved. Just the hidden gems. And, personally, I know I'm going to take good care to respect it and keep it as it was. But I do get a lot of flack when I share a place. Like one of my videos was like the hike you've never heard of, and it did well for me. It got seen by a lot of people, and most people are quite receptive of like, oh, cool, I can't wait to check that place out.
Yeah.
It's in a state park. It's not even on private property,
Right.
Um, but boy, it's like those trigger words. People are like,
Hmm.
why can't you leave some places just for the locals? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have that mentality because you don't own it. Like it's a
Right.
sport. Unfortunately, you're always going to have the trashy people, and we do what we can as responsible hikers to clean up after them. But that is something to always consider when posting places. And the only places I don't post are perhaps if parking is very limited, and if that resource isn't available. Other than that, I only post public places.
Yeah.
um,
Well, and you posted a public place, gosh, I believe it was back in October. And it was the Blue Ridge Mountains. And what was funny was that I was driving back, Max and I were driving back from Columbia, South Carolina. And
oh
so
yeah.
we did one heck of a detour because we were making great time, but traffic was bad on the interstate. So we went off and we just did this really weird kind of semicircle, if you will, up around to the Blue Ridge and hiked. Oh man, it was great at first, but then within the drive, and this wasn't because of elevation, it's just a cold front came in. And it was that weekend where the
Oh, it
morning
was so
was,
weird, right? The snow
yeah,
came in.
yeah, the snow came in. And so we're hiking, gosh, I want to say it's like Saucer Tower. I could be wrong about that. And halfway through that hike, like we start hiking up the tower and it starts icing on us. And Max is just like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I was like, okay, that's fine. He was wearing shorts, and I was like, no, I
Oh
understand. And so he
man.
changed in the car, and we found there was a rock. Oh man,
Devil's Courthouse.
Devil's Courthouse. That's it. And
Yeah.
hiked it, and then I had vaguely mentioned to Max. I was like, yeah, there's someone who I follow that hikes around through here and posts stuff and leads guides. And when I got home, sure enough, you had posted it, and I was like, wow, we were just there.
It's so wild.
So it's kind of fun to see that kind of stuff. And but the parkway is a beautiful beautiful place, and there's so many places where you can just pull over
Oh
and do
gosh,
it,
yeah.
stretch your legs, take a little hike, and get some great views up there as well.
Yeah.
um so you're mentioning hiking. I am curious, do you have a go-to hike? Do you have a personal favorite that you're just like, yeah, um You're a big
Yeah.
fan of, or you're just like, no, I don't even want to talk about it. That's
Yeah, no, I did. It's so funny because I was trying to think of that answer, and I do have favorites. However, I think it's more like the emotions that are attached to it rather than just the physical beauty. Now, don't get me wrong, the physical beauty is there as well. But I will say, hiking when I first moved here with my children and going to these first waterfalls and actually just like soaking it all in. So I'll return to those hikes just for nostalgia, I guess. And it just evokes a really strong comfort and emotion within me. Other than that, though, I have always been the type of person where if I've been somewhere before, I want to go somewhere new. It's restaurants, it's international travel, it's domestic travel. I just want to go and explore everywhere. And so I'm not one that goes to the same hike over and over. I have done a few of them repeatedly just if I have friends or family in town and I know it's a really good one. Um, but in general, I will always be looking for the next hike and the next scene. But I will say one that is always a fan favorite is Triple Falls in DuPont State Forest. And that one is amazing. It's a wide, mostly gravel path. And so a lot of people can fit on the trail at the same time. It is only about 2 miles. And so it's child friendly as well. And there are some of the most impressive waterfalls in this area, I think. And you get four water, like Triple Falls is kind of a three-tiered waterfall, and then you have high falls on that same loop. And it's just massive and impressive, and it's always beautiful, no matter the time of year. And then children can play at the base of the falls, just kind of get their feet wet. So that's always kind of my go-to when I have family or friends in town.
No, that's awesome. And DuPont is a fairly new for me.
Okay.
That same trip, driving out actually to Columbia to go visit one of my sisters and her family. I met up with another sister of mine who lives in Atlanta, and we stayed at a really nice new campground, and it's near DuPont. I had not heard of it. I'd never heard of it until we were kind of looking at a place where we could stay. And she had reached out to her boss, who I believe he owns oh man, I want to get this wrong. Has something to do with wine. I should know this by now. That's out in that he lives in Asheville. And
Okay.
so he suggested, somewhere near DuPont. So that was really cool. You're out on one of your solo hikes fairly recently, and you encountered a inquisitive black bear, might be the best way to put it. Do you mind kind of like sharing a little bit about that experience? And
Yeah.
I mean, because that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, exciting to say the least. So I will say I have hiked and been out in nature my entire life, and with no incidents, no events, which is fine. It's great. I still love it. And so I think and actually I have come across several black bears, in my experience, and they have either been indifferent, they're just doing their bear thing, they don't care that I'm there, or they have run away scared immediately. And so I think being active in the outdoor community here, I know I let my guard down. It's kind of the narrative around here. Like people see black bears in their backyards all the time. And so the narrative is kind of like, oh, they're harmless. They no big deal. So I had just always gone out. I also don't think I have the like fear gene. I don't, it's missing. I don't know. Uh, so I've just always gone out, done my thing, and come home to my kids. No big deal. But um, I think my mistake is maybe not even going out without bear spray. It was underestimating black bears in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I have admittedly not spent that much time in the national park because we have so many other choices closer to Asheville.
Mhm.
Um, but I have realized that the bears in the park are never hunted. So they don't have any natural predators. Not that you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
and then the second thing is the national park is the most visited national park in the country with about 11 to million 12 people a year. And in that, I am aware that people aren't that savvy when it comes to how to react or interact with wildlife. And so some people will actually try to hand feed these bears. And even if they're not doing that, they might not be as careful as they need to be when it comes to their food scraps or their trash. They leave it out, and so the bears in the park become conditioned to know, like, oh, humans equal food. Um, and that's my honest belief that that's what happened in this encounter. I was through a lot of last minute changes. I found myself on this rarely used horse path in the national park. So I was the only one for miles around. And I've always solo hiked, so that's not never been a concern of mine. But I was hiking on the trail and it's unmaintained. So I'm having to like push through thorns, go over under fallen trees the entire way. Again, no big deal. But I'm on the trail and then I hear a rustling in the woods behind me. And this black bear comes up behind me on the trail. And me not being fearful, I'm like, oh my gosh, how cute, foolishly. But um, and then it kind of gets up on the hill to get a better look at me. I'm like, okay, all right. Um, and I'm like just kind of standing my ground, being very calm. And then it makes this noise that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave now. It was like, and I was like, all right, give the bear its distance. I was not ever trying to approach it.
Right.
I was respectfully leaving my distance, but it was coming towards me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave. Um, I slowly back away, just remain calm. And then I realized this bear is not leaving me alone. It's following me. And that's when I start to get slightly nervous. And and I've never had to use like bear aware protocol. So I'm trying to remember what you're supposed to do, which I have, learned before. So I get up on higher ground. I get up on the hill when the trail is down below me. I start trying to be as loud as possible, make my arms as high, make myself as big and loud as possible to try to scare this bear away. And it doesn't work. The bear's like unfazed. It's still like looking at me through the branches. And that's when I start to get quite concerned. So knew that I knew if those tactics weren't working, you just are supposed to like, I don't back away slowly, try to give the bear space. But if it comes down to it, you have to fight with everything you have. So I picked up this large broken off tree branch, like really ready for it to come at me. Thank God it never came to that. But at one point, the bear kind of ran down the mountain again. I was like, okay, I'm done with this bear. Keep going. And so I get back on the trail and I turn around like 10 steps. It's behind me. And I would say the entire time it's about 10 feet away from me.
My goodness.
So I start really getting nervous and unnerved. And I unknowingly go off the trail since the trail wasn't maintained to start with. It was quite easy to go off the trail and not even realize it. Um, so I go off the trail and the bear is still following me. And what unnerved me the most was at one point, the bear, I feel like the most pathetic prey in the world. I'm like trying to keep an eye on the bear, but also like stumbling over trees and like ducking under trees and trying to break through all these thorns.
Right.
And the bear is just like quickly and easily bounding over all these obstacles. And at one point, I was on one side of a fallen tree, and the bear just bound up on the tree and starts crossing the tree towards me. That was the scariest point. And I got a lot of flack for this on Instagram. But at this point, I separated myself enough by screaming, and that it would like flinch a little bit when I would scream, but
Hmm.
then just keep pursuing me.
Right.
So at that point, I was like, it probably wants the food in my backpack. I had just had a pack of trail mix. I don't carry a lot of food, but that's what I had. So at that point, I was able to get into my backpack, take the trail mix out, and I threw it away from me, um, kind of towards the bear. And so the bear, thankfully, it stopped to eat the trail mix. I did get a lot of flack for that, people saying like you should never feed a bear. I'm like, I do understand that it was rewarded for its dangerous behavior. But personally, I don't feel like I'm the person, nor was it the time or place for me to teach this bear a lesson.
Yeah, I
I mean, that's my mentality. Like, I just wanted to get home safely to my kids so they're not
right.
orphaned.
And this was clearly already a learned behavior. I mean, this
Oh,
was,
yeah.
I mean, so that's kind
It
of like what
wasn't teaching the bear.
I have, fortunately, knock on wood, like you said, up until this point, any
Yeah.
black bear I've ever encountered, even in the national park,
Hmm.
tends to kind of, leave me alone. The closest was near Mingo Falls
Oh, yeah.
a few years ago, and I had a bunch of cubs that
Um,
that came along, and I was like, oh, yeah,
yeah.
I know Mother Bear is not that far behind, and so
Mhm.
made a lot of space, and that would be an
Yeah.
understatement, from him. But yeah, that's just yeah, yeah, that's already a learned behavior. But you
It
made it
definitely
out.
was.
You're
Yeah.
able to make it out. I think you got with a couple park rangers, and you found out one of the rangers is like a pseudo celebrity.
I know, I saw that. Yeah, so to quickly wrap up the story, I was able to get away from the bear while it was eating my trail mix, but I inadvertently went further and deeper into the woods off trail. But then I was able to get up high, call 911, because I needed help. I wasn't able to get back to my car without this bear. Um, so I am not an incredibly religious person, but I do think it could have been God's timing, and that 911 told me I had to go back to the trail. I had to for them to be able to find me. I made my way back to the trail. Thank goodness for GPS on your phone, but
Right.
but it was like a movie scene. I made myself find my way back to the trail. The exact moment I found my way back to the trail, I see the bear again, and I hear them calling for me, like, "Hey, hey!"
Oh wow.
It was. I mean, I have goosebumps even retelling the story because the timing was just impeccable. And so yeah, two law enforcement and two park rangers came. They ran up the mountain to the bear while I ran down the mountain to safety. And it was kind of like a standoff. These three men were staring down the bear, and the bear was not scared. And luckily, thankfully, the bear got away unharmed. They did not have to kill the bear. Um, but they scared it away with paintball bullets. Um, so anyway, uneventful, thank goodness, at the end.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
To get back to what you're saying, one of the park rangers, I did not realize this, but someone on Instagram told me, they were like, "That's the park ranger from the documentary." I was like, okay. So I looked into that, and he is one of the wildlife specialists for the national park. And he was in a documentary that was filmed in 2020 on Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So
Wow.
I was able to watch that, and it was pretty cool.
Dang, that is something else. No, that's pretty cool. Well, goodness. So what's next for you, and what's next for Smoky Mountain Soul Adventures?
I would say just more of the same. I am incredibly blessed to have a life that I love, and I'm building a life where, you know, the saying, like, build a life where you don't need a vacation from. And so just more hiking, more tours, and actually right now I need to come up with more winter themed tours. Um, it's always the slow season, so maybe more waterfalls rather than summits. But yeah, just more of the same. Keep building on the momentum that I've gained. And I just no complaints over here. Nothing but great things going on, and just keep building on it.
Well, awesome, awesome. And where can people find you online? Where can they find you on the socials?
Okay, my main social is Instagram. It is Smoky Mountain Soul, Soul, with a period in between each word. And I dabble in the other socials, but that's my main one. And then I have started getting more active on Threads, which is owned by the same company, but
Yep.
it's more of kind of a round table talk, like a conversation, rather than I like to say, like, I'm not presenting to an audience on Threads, and it's actually a conversation. And yeah, that's it. And then my website is same handle, www.smokymountainsoul.com. No periods in between the words.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, Megan, thank you very much. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your story, and maybe I can get Max, and if not Max, maybe I can get Ashley to come along on a hike. Max is actually a big fan of. I think you had mentioned Piscal. I always feel like I mispronounce it. Pisgah, there we go. I always want to add an L on the end of it. I don't know why. I don't know why. I always do. No, but Max, of course, is a big fan of Max Patch. So
Oh yeah,
he's,
yeah.
yeah. So
Oh,
that's a
beautiful
fun one.
gosh. Yeah.
And there's so many other great places there. I always, anytime I talk about that area, I always joke and I say, well, I'm on the Tennessee side, I'm on the Cherokee side. So that's
Yeah.
but Cherokee National Forest, of course, backs right into it, and they're
Oh
both
yeah.
great spots. So
Beautiful spot too. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All
Yeah.
right. I'll say, yeah, thanks again. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Jeremy.
Big thank you goes out again to Megan for joining us on the podcast. Really enjoyed speaking with her and can't wait to see what's lined up for 2024. If you're not following her already, hey, need to do so. You can find all her contact information in the show notes. Also, want to give a shout out to Cold Spring Base Camp. That's the place where I stayed earlier when I was talking to Megan in the podcast and couldn't remember. It's a nice spot out in West North Carolina near Asheville. Fairly new. They're building some new stuff. They're a great follow. Check them out. Think you'll be glad that you did. Speaking of following, hey, be sure to subscribe, follow us. You can also check us out, pricepoints.com. That's price-points.com. There you'll find limited series like Goofballs and Waterfalls, one that we just wrapped up. This one is dedicated to those who like to go out hiking with their kids. These are short hikes with a great reward of waterfall. Check them out. Let me know what you think. And again, thank you for joining this week. Next week, got a great guest lined up. And until then, stay active, have fun, see you around.